So here's the Inna's Fire Ally greater speed build. This is a very high intensity, high attack speed, like really fun build just to clear greater risk with. You will be spellcasting a lot, you will be resetting cooldowns quite a bit with your Obsidian procs, which is going to be a large focus of this build. Your attack speed that we have from the Flying Dragon and the Echoing Fury is going to stack up to give you sometimes 5 attacks per second, but some of the time only one of these bonuses is up. This is why we are placing both of them, so that we can have high attack speed, proc the Obsidian all that much more readily to reset our Fire Ally activation. The active activation on the Fire Ally is your Fire Allies will split into multiple little allies, and then they will explode on enemies, doing like a big burst of explosion. It kind of feels like EP a little bit, but maybe just a slightly smaller radius. But it's really cool effect, and it's really boosted by the secondary that has been placed on the Bindings of the Lesser Gods. Legendary, split Fire Allies gain 5 times this damage. So that's really what we're making use of in this greater of speed. You have more of a chance to keep up your attack speed from the Flying Dragon with having Echoing Fury stacks. So at the beginning of Rift, usually what you do is you target trash, explode on them, you get your Echoing Fury stacks, and then that procs your Flying Dragon, and then you're just flying through the Rift. Because if you can continue either a Flying Dragon proc or Echoing Fury stacks at any one point in time, you will have enough attack speed to continually reset your Mystic Ally, your Epiphany for, toughness and CC immunity, and then the Blinding Speed, Dashing Strike, able to move through the Rift even quicker because of the Obsidian. In addition to Dashing Strike, we are also using the Epiphany Teleport to be able to traverse the Rift. So whenever your Dashing Strike is down, it's off cooldown, whatever, you don't have a lot of Obsidian procs because your Echoing Fury is down, your Flying Dragon is down, you can actually use the Epiphany, clicking on enemies half a screen away, you'll instantly dash to them using your generator, using your spender to help traverse the Rift. So use this free ability. It will also help you save on Dashing Strike casts so that you get more Obsidian procs toward your DPS on your Mystic Ally. It actually helps you DPS if you use it in the Rift, which makes the skill cap of this build quite high, which it's a thrill. It's actually quite engaging, I think. So we do have a lot of other things in the build. You'll notice I am running the full Inna set here, 6-piece Innas. And this is, you could say it's a little glass cannon because we do not slot the bracers, Spirit Guards. So we're not slotting the Spirit Guards here. So that does make the build a little bit squishy. But you'll notice in the video I am sort of getting wrecked some of the time, but this is because I just didn't know how to gear with Innas. The Inna's 6-piece specifies that we gain the passive abilities of the 5-rune Mystic Allies at all times. This includes the Earth Ally. Earth Ally gives 20% life. Guess what? The 2-piece doubles this bonus. Guess again. We have 2 Mystic Allies, so not 40%, but 80% life. Huge increase to toughness that you should totally take advantage of by investing just a little bit into vitality, right? So I did not do this in my runs. I should have been. I'm really excited about this build though, because we work in the focus and restraint. As you can imagine, spamming at such high attack speeds, the Cyclone Strike becomes very costly. This is why we're slotting a little bit of RCR in gear. So we have RCR on the shoulder piece for sure, and I actually would slot it on another gear piece. You can either do quad glove or replace crit hit damage on one of your rings. I actually prefer the crit hit damage because, again, maze stat, especially when your sub 3k Paragon, is going to be in high demand. So I think, and we have an extra crit hit damage gem. Like, compared to the wizard, at least you get 2 CHD gems because we have 2 weapons, so you can actually trade off the crit hit damage on one of your rings a lot easier in this way. So RCR on there and the shoulder piece, and you should be good to go. Granted, this does not reduce the cost of your Cyclone Strike all that much. You're still at 38 per cast, and at 5 attacks per second, you can imagine this is a lot. Note, to save on Spirit, I'm very seldomly casting Mantra of Salvation, just so I can focus on Cyclone Striking, but it is there if you need the extra active activation for getting resistances to help you survive those larger pulls. I do recommend Paragon into Maximum Spirit to help out. Just having a larger tank of Spirit kind of helps out, but you'll be spamming one of 2 signature skills to keep your Spirit level. You can go Crippling Wave, Rising Tide, which will give you Spirit per second, but the special on this one is it gives an additional 2.5 Spirit per enemy hit. I've worked it out, so if you have at least 4 enemies, you will be generating more Spirit than your alternate option. Alternate option will actually be to run the Fist of Thunder Quickening. Quickening would give just a level set amount of Spirit per second. You can see here 129 at 5 attacks per second versus the Rising Tide, which gives 141, but we have to have at least 4 enemies there. So Rising Tide works better in density to generate Spirit, and you will actually start generating more Spirit quicker in larger density. So I actually favored it with some setups, but the Quickening isn't bad at all, and if you prefer this single target generation, that's good too. Keep your Spirit level and keep spamming that Cyclone Strike. Now we have Focus and Restraint, because we are spamming a signature and a spender, right? A generator and a spender. So this will give us a large multiplier. We also have the Squirt's Necklace for up to 2 times damage in the build. Now granted, we don't have any shielding with this build, so the Squirt's Necklace is intended to drop most of the Rift. It will fall, and that is okay. Every now and again, you may get a snipe on like an early engagement where the enemies haven't hit you yet. That's pretty cool, but most of the time it will drop fairly quick and stay off until you get a shielding pylon. So this actually makes shielding pylon really beneficial, because Squirt's Necklace will always stay active with the shielding pylon, and the shielding pylon with the Flavor of Time lasts for 2 minutes. So even though it's not as strong as a power pylon, it will, protect you from damage and allow you to deal 2 times damage while you have it. So it makes it very beneficial. Other pylons are hugely, but you can make use of any pylon with this build. Speed, as aforementioned, the allies benefit as a multiplier from attack speed now, which is really cool. They do not benefit from area damage just yet. At this point, PTR has ended, but Live has not released patch notes, so we don't know yet if the area damage is going to be fixed next season. So probably want to look this up from other content creators. I'm sure they will update you if this has gone into effect or fixed or been changed later on. But yeah, as you can imagine, this is going to be a very glass cannon setup, considering we don't have a toughness ring, we aren't using the bindings. We do have Lefebvre's, which is going to give us our Cyclone Strike, 50% damage reduction. The Innis set is going to give us 5% damage reduction for each Mystic Ally, which is actually really nice. And then you have Dodge from Blinding Speed and Agility, Mantra of Salvation. So a little bit of dodge here is going to help out quite a bit. And then we also have, for multiplier, we also have the Crudest Boots as well. And then we'll also use the Furnace, which is going to allow us to kill elites rather quickly. And as you can imagine, at such high attack speeds, another way that you can make use of that high attack speed is Stricken. So we're actually running Stricken in this build to, you get in some situations in the Rift where you aren't able to kill off remaining density, or single elites. So Stricken helps out tremendously on proccing Oculus ring spawns and just ensuring that you have like a good natural flow to the build. Granted, you don't have as high cooldown with this, because you could theoretically run a Gogok here, and Stricken does tend to favor the higher greater of speed, so kind of like toward the slower end speed of the clear. This will help out tremendously. The Rift Guardian it especially tended to deal a lot of damage to me, I noticed. So the Stricken in that sense was also very helpful, being able to 1 or 2 cycle the Rift Guardian instead of having a 3 or 4 cycle with a different gem is very nice. The Bartek's Cutthroat is also very impactful here. Consecutive hits to enemies increase the damage, and this is like a debuff, a multiplier debuff basically that applies not very readily to multiple enemies, at least. I don't know the specific mechanics, but it seems like it's focusing on single target mostly, but even still, like the Stricken in this build, it's going to help you focus down elites, focus down remaining enemies, and continue through the rift without dropping your Flying Dragon or your Echoing Fury all that often. And this is what allows it to really shine. Elite damage from Furnace is going to help out tremendously as well, and it's just such a good composition. We have Trapped and Enforcer for extra damage, and yeah, it's just whew. So we have Seize the Initiative for extra attack speed on freshly hit enemies. We have Beacon of Utar, Harmony for toughness and defense, and Guardian's Path as well is coming in with even more dodge. I forgot to mention that, but even more dodge. For the 5th passive, there are a couple of passives you could choose. I would recommend Near Death Experience, because on the Enchantress, I am running the Focused Mind for that extra 6% with Prophetic Harmony for the cooldown and attack speed. But you could run, like if you didn't want Near Death Experience, there are alternate passives. Sixth Sense is very appealing because we are so Glass Cannon with this build, reducing non-physical damage taken by 25%. You can run either Unity or Determination, boosting your additive damage up to 20%, which would be like, I don't know, maybe a 14% thereabout, since we don't have Assimilation in the build to give us additive damage stacks. These would be quite nice there for up to 14% DPS. And then Transcendence actually looks quite appealing to me. Every point of spirit spent heals you, and when I applied this and had slotted Health Globe healing bonus, you can get close to 900 health restored per spirit spent. And if you're like dumping your entire globe of spirit in a matter of a second, like you can imagine, this is a lot of recovery that you could have. So that's another good passive. Resolve might actually work very well. Damage you deal reduces enemy damage by 20%. So the really cool thing here is that you need a Bartux for this build to work really well. But the passives that you can get, there are so many that could benefit the build that it actually makes it a little bit easier to find, I would think, in the long run. Now, let's go ahead and focus in on some alternate configurations. Like I mentioned, the cooldown for affixes. Let's do affixes real quick. So you can see the Bartux has no cooldown on it. So we have cooldown and attack speed on the Echoing Fury, cooldown on the Restraint, Focus, and I already mentioned RCR. We have cooldown on the shoulders and the gloves and the helm. So yeah, and then the Beacon of Utar, of course. If you add on the Gogok, this setup here, you can actually run this at a slightly lower Greater Rift, like maybe 4 to 5 Greater Rifts lower than the Stricken would compete, and clear quicker. And it actually works quite well because you still have the Bartux for the single target. It allows you to still take out the Rift Guardian at those levels without too many cycles of having to cast your fire ally. And yeah, the Gogok gives even more attack speed for, you know, kind of catalyst ramp up. You don't need it necessarily to hit 5 APS, but it helps you get there and maintain your attack speed from these other bonuses. And then we also have the dodge, even more, you know, dodge for toughness, which is quite nice. So that's another setup that you can run if you want something that's a little bit more tanky and will survive easier at those slightly, you know, 4 to 5 greater lower speeds. While Bartux is the best choice here, you can run the Shadow Killer. Shadow Killer is quite nice because it gives you additional resource cost reduction and grants spirit per critical hit, which is going to be quite nice for maintaining your spirit and casting more Cyclone Strikes. It also does reduce the damage of enemies hit, so this will help you survive a little bit better with this weapon. And I would run the Stricken because with this weapon you won't be able to focus down enemies quite as much, so having the Stricken there would be a nice combination still. So granted, you can run 2 Ethereals with this setup, even though the Bartux is the most optimal in my opinion, and it's just an amazing build. I love it. Hope you do too. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.